wanted and safe, and like, you know, like we know that there's someone there we can trust if we have any problems. So it's huge. It's huge
Yeah.
what you're doing.
Just for the
Oh,
record, like when I was at my 4 year, like nobody really like they cared, but like nobody like gave me their number and was like, oh, you're having a bad day, let's go get ice cream. Like nobody did that. So like what you do is it hits me right here.
gosh. Well, it's just like I know what it's like to be there, to be like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like I literally don't know. And so it's just like I wish I could do more. And it's like I don't know if there's anything we can do more, then let us know, because I just want to see you guys succeed. That's what like makes my heart full, is to see you guys just thriving and whatever. And I know it's hard, especially these times, but just let us know if there's any way we can help you, because gosh, it's a weird world to navigate right now.
Mhm.
Um,
You'll see us graduating in 2 years.
Hopefully.
perfect. Don't make me cry. I'll be there with like the signs and everything. Like,
Yes.
I knew her. Like,
That's
oh
gonna be
my
great.
God. Okay. So, are you okay with starting right now?
Yep.
Okay. It's gonna be a struggle because Graceland's not good with tech, but we're gonna do this. Okay. think that I think that we're getting there. Um, Trying to do like the side by side and hoping that this all works. Uh, Share screen. Okay, perfect. I think we're good to go. Um, oh, and then there's the Facebook Live component. Graceland is just very nervous. And thank you for your patience, Lyle on Facebook. Let's do this. Good gravy. Okay. Trying to figure out how we can get on IVCC admissions. Okay, let's pause again, guys. I'm sorry. I'm trying this. Hello, everyone. We are here with our Ask Network week 6 of the series. And we're back with some wonderful alumni. We're going to go intro into it really quick. So like to introduce our wonderful students that have gone through our programs and everything. And we love speaking with them. So Devanshi Patel was named salutatorian of the LaSalle Peru Township High School class of 2018, finishing second in the class of 253. She just graduated from IVCC this May with an Associate of Science degree and will be transferring to NIU in the fall to continue working on her undergraduate degree in biochemistry with a minor in biology. While at IVCC, Devanshi's incredible command of various subjects made her a true academic standout. She served as a peer tutor for 2 years, assisting students in chemistry, biology, anatomy, and physiology. She was well respected by her peers, and staff and faculty learned to take notice of her industrious nature and her drive to learn. Devanshi was also named IVCC's Foundation's 2019 Co-21st Century Scholar and was selected as the winner of the coveted William and Diane Taylor STEM Scholarship to Northern Illinois University, worth more than $25,000 towards her junior and senior years. Liza Buhr just graduated from IVCC this May with 2 degrees, an Associate of Arts and an Associate of Science. She will be transferring to Northern Illinois University in the fall to continue work on her undergraduate degree in communicative disorders. Liza graduated from Ottawa High School in 2018 and originally went off to a 4-year university. For a long time, she struggled with mental health issues and generally never feeling good about herself. When she was away at school, the pressure she put on herself became too high to the point where she withdrew from the university on medical leave. She was devastated, confused, and angry. IVCC welcomed her with open arms despite the fact that she felt like a failure. When Liza started as a full-time student at IVCC in January of 2019, she never looked back. IVCC became the driving factor in changing her life. She has never felt so confident in her abilities and since coming to IVCC. And from Liza, in her own words, in a lot of ways, IVCC saved my life. And if I could receive my entire bachelor's degree from here, I would. It's a wonderful place to be. After having the opportunity to watch you two grow as students and members of the IVCC community, I'm so proud to have you guys here tonight to share your wisdom and experiences. Thank you so much. to Devanshi and Liza for joining us tonight.
We're so happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
So our topic tonight is time management and study skills. This is the sixth topic we're covering from our Alumni Sharing Knowledge Network series. And every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m., we look forward to connecting with you guys. And we plan to cover topics that will ease students' minds about the college experience. And you can connect with us during the live session or watch the recording of the discussion. So before I say anything else, I know I just said a mouthful, I should probably introduce myself. My name is Gracelyn Quessy, and as a student recruitment specialist, my job is to encourage prospective students to explore the educational and career options available to them through our campus. Whether or not you're attending college for the first time or coming back to finish what you started, we're here to assist you with meeting your educational and career goals. We'd also like to take this time to remind you that as your local community college, it's part of our mission to serve as an educational and career resource for all residents of our district, whether or not they are current IVCC students. So we're going to start off, as we usually do, with the question to open up our conversation and get the flow going. So why did you choose IVCC?
So for me personally, IVCC wasn't the first choice, but when I was in my senior year of high school, I decided that I need to find something that is affordable and some place that I would enjoy. And so money plays a big part in a lot of students' conversations when they're talking about college and everything, because you have to pay for tuition, you have to pay for living, you have to pay for books, right? So I wanted to choose an option that was affordable, and so I chose IVCC. And I'd like to say that it's the best decision that I've ever made, because not only did I save money, but I also got my associate's degree and got my gen eds done. So I'm already so ahead than some of my peers, and I'm really happy that I chose IVCC.
So like you heard in my introduction, I originally went to a four-year university. So again, IVCC wasn't my first choice either. I think a lot of like high schoolers, just like general overall view of community college is that it's like a second high school. And I kind of disagree with that. I mean, I fell under that category when I was in high school. I was like, I'm never going to community college. But anyway, when I came back from my 4-year, I really didn't know what I should do or what I could do. And IVCC was close to home, it was affordable, and it allowed me to start my college career, which is what I really just wanted to do. And I needed some place to do that. So they were there for me, and it was a great place to start at.
Yeah. Like, so, I mean, it's good to start your base somewhere and just kind of build from the foundation from then on. We talked about how study skills and time management are concepts that go hand in hand with each other, but it's important to understand what each of these like actually are. So, can you explain what study skills are, and just how they played a part in getting through your first 2 years at IVCC?
So for me, study skills are basically how you study, how you learn the material in front of you. And so it's different for everybody. Some people only use lecture slides. Some people only use the textbook. Some people like to watch videos. It also depends on where you like to sit while you're learning. Do you like to be in a crowded area where there's a bunch of stuff going around you? Or do you like to be in your bedroom? Or do you like to be away from your bed or on the dining table, right? So it really depends what type of a learner you are. I like to use a bunch of different methods. I am a visual learner, so I like pictures, I like diagrams, I like to draw things out. And so study skills for me are basically the how of the learning part.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with that. Everybody's different, and it might take you a while to kind of figure out what works best for you. I know that even though I studied in high school, like this transition, it still like kind of switched a little and took a couple weeks to really figure out what worked for me. But like for me, I like to be in like a quiet space, like by myself. If there's a lot of other people there, or like music, like I've never been a coffee shop studier. Like I tried, it just, I was not productive. So like you learn pretty quickly, like where you actually can like study and like learn the material and where you're really just like kind of wasting your time. So
No, I totally understand that. It's just like sometimes I can focus on music and sometimes I can't. It
mhm.
just depends on the subject I'm studying and I guess what kind of music it is. But um, yeah, you just kind of have to find your own vibe and everything. Um, our students, like, moving on to the fact, our students are busy. Like they've got other things other than school going on, and they're involved in a lot of different things and on and off campus. Um, I know personally, you two were always coming and going to and from classes and work, peer tutoring at Learning Commons, club meetings, and other extracurriculars. You guys were outstanding students and just members of the IVCC community. But there's only 24 hours in a day, which is why managing your time is important. So, what is time management and what methods did you use to organize and manage your time?
So since we only have 24 hours in a day, it's hard to, dedicate times to sleep and get 8 hours or get all your homework done and also dedicate time to your other commitments, extracurriculars and everything. So the only reason I was able to do so much during this year was because I used a planner, and I've been using a planner since high school, like the very first year, because I can't remember the little things. Like I can't even write everything on my phone or a little post-it because I'll probably lose it. So planners are the way to go for me. And what I like to do is every day I like to write down the assignments that are due the next day. And then I also like to write in advance what tests are due or what papers are due that week. And so that just reminds me every day, hey, like you have this due, you need to probably start it. Don't try to cram it the night before. And I also really, really like to use the syllabus because in high school, your teachers will remind you, hey, you have a test upcoming next Monday, and it's only Tuesday this week. But in college, you're not going to have that. You might figure out the lecture before that you have a test the next time you see your professor. So using the syllabus, you usually have a timeline of deadlines and assignments due and tests. So I like to put those in my planner too. So I'm never surprised when I see something coming or something on the board or something on the lecture notes. So time management for me is how you split up your days, your weeks, your weekends, and how you dedicate each time slot to your different commitments, whether that be academics or gym time or your club meetings or whatever.
Yes, my planner is my best friend. I've been using a planner since high school too. I don't think I could function without it, to be honest with you. My planner is my life. It has everything in it. I really like that you brought up the syllabus, because definitely like the first day of class when your teacher gives you that, I definitely go through and highlight when tests are or like important papers. And then after I highlight it, I go to that date in my planner and like put it in there so it's already in there, ready to go. Another thing I like to do though, usually because I am like so busy, I feel like I always am trying to keep myself going 100 miles per hour. I like to make little sticky note like lists the night before, or like lists in my iPhone notes of just like the important things that I know can only happen like that next day. Or like, I know I did it a lot this past semester. I was like, oh, go to writing center and make an appointment because your paper's due like in a week. And you can't just wait till the day before your paper's due to go see the writing center because they're going to give you feedback and then you might want to take it back there. And like, so you got to kind of like plan ahead. Another thing for time management, somebody once told me that college, you should treat it like your first full-time job. And that while you're at school, I know for community college it's kind of different than like university living, but like when you're at school you should pretend like you're working, and like when you're at work you do your work. And so I like to dedicate, like when I was at IVCC, I did as much work as possible. And I did work in like the Learning Commons, the library, and sometimes the cyber cafe. So that when I go home, that was like my place to relax and to like unwind so that I could like separate between the two. I mean, there are still times when I came home and still had to do homework, but I like to try to like set that boundary, so to speak, so that you have one place that's dedicated for work and one to relax.
That's such a wonderful piece of advice. Is just like really separating your time and being able to focus on one thing or another. Because it's like you just want to get in that mindset to either focus on studying or focusing on whatever else you need to do. That just kind of helps with just streamlining everything you need to do. So now that we have a foundation for what time management is versus what study skills are, let's go deeper into each concept. So it's not uncommon for college students to admit that their study habits now are much different than how they studied in high school. So can you speak about what you think the differences are, what that means, and how your study habits changed from high school to college?
So one of the biggest differences between high school and college is that you're not in every class every single day for the week, right? So in college, you might have classes that are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then some that are Tuesday, Thursday, which then gives you time in between till you see your professor the next time. So you don't have to do homework for every single class every night like you might have had to do in high school. So that's kind of a plus for me. I really like that because that means that I don't have to cram everything in and sacrifice learning something or sacrifice, looking over notes or finishing an assignment or whatever. So I definitely changed my study skills because of all this like new change. And one of the ways I changed my study skills is that I use less flashcards now than I did in high school. In high school, they just worked a lot for like a lot of different subjects: English for vocab, anatomy for the different terms and pictures, right? Because in high school, we didn't have that kind of dedicated lab time like we do in college. So now, since I have that 3-hour lab every week and we spend so much time hands-on with the material, I don't need to use those flashcards. I can do with the time in lab. I can use my notes that I took in lab. I can use my lecture notes. We also have seminars, so I can use the notes and lectures from there. So it just, my need for flashcard isn't there anymore, so I don't use flashcards. And I'm more of a, I like to draw more. I like to draw diagrams. I like to rewrite what I can remember from my head. I try to recall the stuff without using my notes. So I feel like I just switched a lot, but it's helping me now. So, and flashcards help me then. So whatever floats your boat in the moment is what you should use.
So I don't think a lot of my study habits really like honestly changed that much. I worked really hard in high school to like keep good grades and to study a lot. I also have two older brothers, so I was always comparing myself to them. So I think that kind of played a role in like me always wanting to study. But if anything, I think college just made me actually study more. But I really just used the same like similar habits, like Quizlet. I use that all the time for flashcards. I like to, like, if you ever get a study guide, sometimes you'll get study guides, sometimes you won't. But if you use like the review page in the back of the book, like at the end of the chapters, I try to like write out the answers to the questions, kind of like I'm taking the test before the test. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I think that's really changed is like you're not in class every day. So sometimes you'll have like breaks in the middle of the day. And I found myself just being able to study like during the day more instead of until like 1 a.m. when I did in high school because I had so much stuff to do during the day. So I think that's a benefit.
Well, that's fantastic to hear that. Like, it just changes based on your schedule and everything. And like, some people study better during the day or versus at night or whatever. So you get to kind of find what works best for you. But how did you learn which study skills work best for you? And which skills did not work for you?
So for me, it was trial and error. Sometimes I would try to study on my bed or on the couch or with my family in the living room with the TV on, and none of those worked because either I want to fall asleep, shut off all the tabs and fall asleep, or just watch TV and just put everything away. So that only worked like 2% of the time. So now I like to sit at my desk and also have the curtain down because the window right next to me is super distracting. So I also put away my phone so I don't see anything, turn off notifications. And so that really allows me to just focus on what I'm doing for at least like a couple of hours. So I also learned like you also learn through how you do on assignments. So if you had a test and you didn't do so hot, you can look at, hey, like how did I study? Did I not review it enough? Did I miss something? Did I decide to not look at something that the professor told me to look at? So it's sometimes the first test is like trial and error. You look at how you study, you look at the grades you got, and you see if you like it or not, and then you change your study habits according to that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It was definitely trial and error for me, especially the first couple weeks back to college after taking some time off on medical leave. Um, what I did was I pulled the tools from my toolbox from high school out and I tried to use some of those tactics. But, college is different than high school. So, the tests aren't just always so straightforward like at how they feel in high school. Um, I asked other people that I knew had taken certain courses, like what worked best for them. I actually asked Devanshi what she used to learn like medical terms. She said Quizlet. I use Quizlet now. It works great. I draw stuff out. I find drawing stuff out is really helpful, and then I try to draw it out again without like looking at anything. Um, I definitely have to put my phone like away from my desk. It's on do not disturb. If I have like a lot of stuff to do, it's on do not disturb. And sometimes I just like leave it in a completely different room because like I cannot get distracted by that. Um, and then I tried a couple times to study from my bed and study from the couch, and it just doesn't work. So I definitely have to be in my room at my desk with the door shut. And I'm like, don't come bother me because I have stuff to get done. I have learned quickly that I do not do well in spaces with a lot of other people, like talking and being distracting.
No, and that's fantastic that you've learned that and you've like internalized it and realized, no, this isn't going to work. Because I mean, it's just, you have to figure out what works for you and what, like how you can focus and all. And taking all of that into consideration in terms of where you study, how you study, who you study with, and all that stuff. So, um, moving on, we know that there's a difference between actually learning something over the course of the semester versus cramming the night before the test, which we're probably all guilty of at some point. So can you share your understanding of the difference between the two?
So, one of the biggest differences between learning something and memorizing it is that if you learned it, then down the road you can try to recognize or recall a little bit of it or a lot of it. So, like 10 times 10, right? We learned it when we were little and now we can recall it easily. We don't have to do the math on paper, or at least I hope not. And another thing is if you learn something the first time, if you learned it for real, then the second time you could forget it, which I've done many times. But the second time you relearn it, it should take you less time to understand the material. And if it takes you less time the second time around, then it means that you learned it the first time. So what I like to do is I've had a bunch of classes that build on themselves. So you needed to know what you learned in chapter 5 to be able to take the test on chapters 16, 17, 18. So even the stuff that I learned in semester 1, I needed to know for the semester 2 finals and tests. So the best way I did that was create like a review sheet for the entire semester. starting with like little boxes. You don't need to write down everything, but you can write down little formulas or concepts or main ideas. And so by the end of the semester or by the end of the year, you're going to have this one sheet of paper with mini summaries of all these different chapters. So each time before a test, kind of review those, see if you understand what you wrote down, see if you remember what you're talking about. And then another way is to do a bunch of practice problems, because for the tests that for the classes that build on themselves, there's a bunch of practice problems usually. Like, you have to know how to solve it this way. You have to know what to use, what not to use. So see if you can take a bunch of practice problems from online websites, and if they cater to your test material, use them, practice, see if you can solve them, use your textbook problems. And also, if there's formulas involved, just grab a scrap piece of paper and write down everything you can remember from your memory without using your notes. So constantly refreshing yourself on this material, even if you think you know it, is going to help a lot when you're trying to learn something, as opposed to just memorize it the night before.
Yeah, so I'm definitely guilty of both, of cramming and actually learning. Um, I definitely think it's obviously more beneficial to just put in the work the first time and learn it the first time. I know in high school I did a like what I like to call survival learning, where you just memorized it, took the test, and moved forward. Um, and to be honest, it kind of hurt me just a little bit in college with college math, because there's concepts from high school math that I just had to struggle through, and they came back in college math. So if you're watching this and you're in high school, you should learn your math the first time because it's hard. um, but yeah, I find it easier in college to actually like want to learn stuff the first time because it's more interesting. The classes are more fun, and usually you're more interested in the stuff you're learning. And for me, I know it felt like I was actually moving towards something that was like meaningful, like moving towards a degree instead of just like high school graduation. Um, and I also have found that if you go talk to your professors about like, hey, I'm struggling with this, do you have any resources? Like 9 out of 10 times, they will provide you with some sort of resource that can really help you improve in whatever area you find yourself struggling.
Those are great answers. Like, just to kind of, it just is all about tailoring your experience to how you study and which subject it is and everything. So, um, moving on to kind of a related question. Does the way that you study or do homework differ by whatever subject you're focusing on at the moment? And how do you successfully shift gears from one and transition from one subject to another?
So for me, studying definitely differs depending on the topic. Like for example, for math, I can tell you honestly that like I probably didn't really ever study for it in high school because I was like, it's math, you can't study for that. But now in college, I just go back and look at the homework, or in my math lab, that's what we use for our math. Some math classes use that for their math homework. You can go back into that and like ask for like similar questions and like redo the questions. So I find that really helpful. If your teacher's willing to put together a practice test, those are always really good review. But then, so I just do like a lot of practice problems for like math and um, chemistry when I took that. But then for things like when I took Spanish and medterm, I just used a lot of Quizlet. Quizlet's really nice because you can do more than just a flashcard. You can play the little matching game. There's a part where you can like type it so you can see if you're spelling things correctly, which I know has really helped me with medterm since spelling is so important in that class. And then for like English, I know sometimes people are like, how do I study for English? Or how do I get better at English? For me, it was just writing a lot of papers, bringing my papers to the writing center, having more than one tutor look at it, and just getting their feedback. I had a couple friends that were good at English. I'd have them read it and give me feedback. And it's really a lot of practice. And after a while, you'll get the hang of it. And then to shift gears from one subject to another, I usually like, especially with online learning, with this whole Corona school, what I've had to do is I've had to leave my bedroom because that's where I do most of my work, and I have to like go do 10 jumping jacks or like run around my house or something, or just do something completely unrelated to school to just like take a break for like 15 minutes, and then I can come back and start in on a new subject.
So I definitely change my study habits depending on what subject I'm currently looking at. So if I need to study for like an English test, then I'll look at my notes and just reread them and try to, understand what I wrote down. I might sometimes reread the story. If I'm doing math, then I'll just do practice problems. If I'm doing anatomy, then I'll draw. But one of the things that I really need to do to kind of clear my headspace is to physically clear my desk. So put away all the English stuff or put away all the math stuff. Or since online school started, like Liza talked about, I will clear everything off, just keep my laptop and everything right there, keep my phone at my desk, and then go down to like refill my water bottle or grab a snack or go talk to the family. So definitely now, since when we were on campus, we would have those like passing times when you're walking from one class to the next or walking to your car or whatever, so you had that break. But now if you're just studying in one spot, you don't really have that physical break anymore. So the transition is even more important. Not only are you were able to literally change your position, but now you're only changing what you're thinking about, your mental space. So I just like to change the desk space around me, and the minute I start, or a few minutes after I start a new subject, I feel like my mind automatically transitions to the new subject.
And that's great that you recognize that, and that you guys can, you have your own system to kind of move from one subject to another. And studying is not on everyone's like favorite list of things or hobbies to do. So how do you motivate yourself to study throughout the semester? And how do you stay motivated instead of just like cramming?
For me, I definitely use things like Starbucks and like Netflix as like rewards. Ice cream, big one too. And I also just kind of like tell myself like, okay, it's way easier to be productive right now because like I'm more of a morning, like midday person. I'm not usually that great at like midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., not max productivity there. So I'm like, okay, if we do it now, later we can do fun stuff or later we can like sleep. And that's become a big motivator for me because I love to sleep. I love to just watch my Netflix. Like I definitely have to use that, or especially during quarantine, sometimes we were stuck in our houses the whole time, and I would be like, okay, if you get X, Y, and Z done, you get to drive around for 15 minutes. I don't know, like I had to definitely use things or like coffee or food to motivate me. Back in like the normal semester when we could gather and everything, I would use things like, okay, if we get our homework done or we study, then we can go to this fun school event that's happening, or we can go hang out with so and so. So I definitely used that to keep myself going, and I always reminded myself that like if I just put in the time now, it will be easier down the road. And if I try hard and focus now, I'll thank myself later. Kind of like that cheesy quote that's like, do something for yourself that your future self will thank you for, or whatever. I like remind myself to do that.
So I definitely agree with what you said. The best thing to do is finish and start your materials and everything early. And I wish I was a morning person. I love sleep and I love Netflix, but like it won't matter. Like if I wake up early, my mind just does not work. Like I cannot do homework in the morning. I can't study in the morning. The only thing I could do is just like go to class and try to pay attention. Um, but so since I'm not a morning person, a lot of the times stay up late trying to finish everything, because that's when my mind is actually working at night. So sometimes everybody will be sleeping and I'll be doing homework, and that's like my peaceful time. So um to stay up late, I also need coffee sometimes, especially before the night before a test. And then snacks are a big thing, especially now with online learning. I feel like I need more snacks to keep myself going, because then I'll get distracted with my phone if I don't have something to eat, which is weird, but like I need something. But when we were, able to do everything in person and stuff, I would take some time to talk to my friends in between classes, or in between classes and work. I'll, take 5-10 minutes on social media before I start working, or before I start studying, or the next class. If I'm done for the day and I'm leaving campus, then I'll definitely go to the gym, because being at the gym is like away from school, away from your commitments, away from your extracurriculars, and it's just that mental headspace that you need for a little bit. And then going home, eating, taking showers, so you have that block to yourself, you taking care of yourself and not worrying about everything else that you need to do. So I like to use a bunch of different things that keep my energy going and keep me motivated.
And that's perfect. That's just like, you just need to keep going. You need to like just, what's the next thing to do? What's the next thing to do? Rather than like just, kind of leveling off and just being like, okay, well, I'm done for the day. It's so fantastic to have something else to like look forward to, or to know that you want to do, to take care of yourself. And so moving on to the next question, where do you think that you can go on campus if you need help or advice on how to improve your study skills?
So for me, especially when I came back home and I came to IVCC, I was very hesitant and nervous about like being like knowing if I could succeed in college, because I left a 4 year and I never thought I would do that, and I was like, can I actually do this? And what I've found is if you just are honest with your professors, most of them will see that you care, and they will take note of that and then try to help you with whatever issue you might be having. So I definitely would like talk to your professor first if you have a concern about, like I usually did it after the first exam. If I didn't do as well as I wanted to, I'd be like, how can I fix, or how can I improve this so that moving forward we can achieve a better grade? Um, I also found the Peer Tutoring Center and the Writing Center and pretty much the whole Learning Commons a great spot at IVCC for help. Um, I'm not good at math, like I've mentioned, and I went to the tutoring center. I walked in, I was nervous, and I didn't want to go. And it's probably the best thing I ever did, because not only did I learn math, but I made a bunch of friends, because they're all just super nice in there and they just want to help you succeed, and they'll sit there with you and help you figure out like whatever you need, even if they were like not in the class, because I was taking a weird like teacher class for teachers, and nobody had taken that class, but they sat there with me and got me through it. And like that's just goes for like the peer tutoring center and the writing center, and pretty much like everyone I've met at IVCC, like they're going to sit there and try to help you to the best of their ability, whether they know everything about it or they just learned about the topic because you brought it to them. And so I highly recommend both of or the Learning Commons as a great place to go. And then Tina Hardy, she's the Office of Disability Services coordinator, and she is just one of the sweetest people I've ever met, and she really wants to help students succeed. So if you feel that you might qualify for any of that, I definitely recommend sending her an email or reaching out. I actually just reached out to her for extended test time in one of my classes because I got so nervous about the test. And it has helped me so much to just know that I have like some extra time. And it's definitely worth it. I know it can be scary to reach out. And I know that sometimes, I know at least for me, I was like, oh, if I have to get help, that's bad. But, it's not like that. Getting help is a good thing. We all need help. And like the sooner you admit to yourself that it's okay to go get help, the sooner you will be doing so much better and you'll be so much happier.
There's so many people at IVCC who can help you, and so one of the first groups of people are basically your professors and your instructors, because you're in their class. They're the ones assigning you all this work. They're the ones who assigned you the textbook, which has the problems that you're stuck on, right? So if you have a problem, or if you're stuck, or if you don't understand something from lecture, I would recommend going to them. And sometimes during the beginning of the semester, it can be very intimidating because you don't know them. You haven't even had a first test with them. You haven't had any assignments. So it might be a little scary, but trust me, a lot of professors really, really want you to come in. That's what office hours are for, right? So use those office hours. Please go in, please talk to them. And honestly, they also want to see the effort that you put in, right? Because even if you might not get a solid grade, they know that you put the effort in to come talk to them. And sometimes it can be very, very helpful, because as opposed to a lecture environment where there's a bunch of other students and only one professor, when you go into office hours, it's one-on-one. So the professor can change the way they're teaching by looking at how you learn. So if you're a visual learner like I am, the professor might like to draw something on their whiteboard for you or on paper, and it's super, super helpful. Another place I would recommend is the Peer Tutoring Center. We were both peer tutors, so we know how it works in there. Some students, we've heard, might find it scary to come in, and I would also be scared to walk in and see a bunch of just a group of students laughing and doing their homework and stuff. I probably wouldn't want to come in and ask for help. I would be very, very scared, but trust me, we are all super nice. We love to help. That's what we're there for. If one person can't do the subject, we will definitely find somebody else who can, and we will just keep talking to people until we find somebody who can cater to your needs. So there's so many peer tutors and professional tutors who will help you, and if one of us has to go to class, then we will just have somebody else sub in for us. So we're always there to help you. So don't be scared of us, please come in. And the third group of people that I would ask for help from is my classmates and my peers. So we're going through the same things. I might learn something one way, they might learn another way. I might use one resource, they might use another. They might have bullet points 1, 2, and 3 down. Somebody else might have bullets 5, 6, and 7 down. So we can learn from each other. We can teach each other. We can help each other through. So anybody and everybody around you is somebody you can ask for help. So just don't be scared, and don't be afraid to admit that you need help, because like Liza said, we all need help. And it's not bad to ask for help either.
Oh, thank you so much for clearing that up. Like, because it's just, that's such an important thing to do, is just realize that everyone needs a little bit of help and guidance and everything, and not to be afraid to ask for it, because we've all been there and we're there to help you guys. So back to time management, even though you might feel that you finally found a balanced schedule that works for you, sometimes there's times where we can get overwhelmed because of just what's going on or surprises that come up in our life. Could you share about a time when you feel like you couldn't get to everything that you needed to do, and how did you get through it?
So I actually laughed when I saw this question, because I was like, this is me on a daily basis. I always feel like I have so many things I need to do, or like so many things I just want to get done. And one time, or a time that I can tell you about specifically, is this past fall I took 21 credit hours, which is more than, like 18 is the max, and I took 21 because I was trying to graduate on time. And I also started a new job, and I was just like, maybe this is a bad idea. Like, I remember like looking in the mirror in October, and I was like, why'd you do this to yourself? But the best way to get through it for me, I just kept telling myself, like, okay, you need to just take a deep breath. Like, you can do this. Stay organized. I used my planner. I went to peer tutoring. I went to the writing center. I talked to my instructors. I think by the end of the semester, every instructor knew that I was taking 21 credit hours. And I was just like, hey, I just want you to know, like, I'm trying really hard, but I'm really stressed out. Like, and if you just have like good communication with people. Like they're usually pretty understanding. Um, Also, like one thing that like really helps me when I get like super overwhelmed is I like to make a list of things like that are either the hardest for me or the things that I don't want to do. So for me, that's usually like math is at the top of the list. And I like to do those things first so that I can, like, I would do like my math homework at school so that there could be someone to help me. But I would save like my Spanish homework for at home because I liked that subject and I was much better at that subject. So I could handle that one alone. But math, I usually, I would get stumped, I'd get frustrated, and I'd just be like, well, if no one can help me, then I don't want to do it anymore. And so I think that's really important to do. Um, and then one of the big things I learned this fall was to say no to things and to people. Um, because I really am a firm believer that you have to put yourself first, and it takes a while to learn that. It takes a while to learn like what that means. But for me, that just meant, sometimes like, no, sorry, I can't go do this activity or whatever because I have these things to do. And I know that hanging out with you would be really fun, but I know that if I don't go do this, it's gonna make me more stressed out later on. So that was definitely a hard thing to learn, but definitely a very important thing.
Sometimes the entire semester can feel overwhelming. Sometimes it's just that week. Sometimes it's only, the first week of classes. Sometimes it's only the finals week. So it really depends on what kind of classes you're taking, what's going on in your life, and everything else. So for me, I think the biggest lesson to be learned is that you need to keep your priorities flexible. So you might have long-term goals and you might have short-term goals, but your long-term goals should be at the back of your mind, but they don't need to be your top priority every single day. So if academics are super important for you, your degree is super important for you, yes, keep that, remember that, but don't make that your number one priority every single day because you've also got other commitments. You might have work, you might have a family, you might have friends that you don't want to talk to you. You also have yourself that you need to take care of. So every day's priorities should be a little bit different. Every week's priorities should be a little bit different. Just keep moving up and down from the list. Like week 1, priorities are school. Week 2, priority is me. Finals week, again, priorities are academics once again. So I think that's the biggest takeaway. Don't lose sight of what you want, but also don't forget that you won't be able to accomplish your goals if you're not taking care of yourself.
Okay, so I think you guys covered the next 2 questions with that answer. Like it's really just so important to prioritize yourself and to know that you can't move on if you're not taking care of yourself. And to just keep that in mind and as you focus on your goals as well, and to just really balance the two. So let's skip to the last question, actually. What advice would you give to high school students to help them develop study skills that will allow them to be more successful in the college environment?
Um, for me, advice to give to high school students, if I'm just gonna say it like if I was talking to my high school self, I would just tell myself to have an open mind and to like feel the fear and do it anyway, because I was very afraid when I first went to college. I like didn't want to talk to people, but the thing that I've realized the most is there's so many people that want to help you. And if you're confused about anything, just like bring up your concern and someone will try to find an answer for you. As for study skills, I just recommend like testing out different things that work for you. I know I highly recommend Quizlet if you have to do a lot of memorizing of like different terms. Um, for me, my math teachers have been really good about like providing like extra problems to use for practice. And I would just develop a good study habits like at the beginning of your college career. Like I wouldn't like go into your first semester of college like, oh, this is college, like, and blow it off. I would come in with the mindset like, okay, this is college, like I need to take this seriously, but like I can also have fun while I'm doing it. And I know for me, like I might have taken it too seriously academically at first, but throughout my time at IVCC, I learned to like have that flexibility with my priorities, and I was still able to keep my good study habits and earn the grades I wanted while also like having the flexibility to go have fun and like meet new people and all of that.
So my biggest advice would be don't be afraid to change, but also don't be afraid to keep the things that you like about yourself. So if we apply that to academics, please be willing to try new study skills because it's a new environment. You are not in high school anymore, it's college, so everything's kind of run differently. Like I said, syllabus versus how high school teachers will remind you about assignments that are due. So don't be afraid to try out new study habits, new techniques, but don't be afraid to keep the techniques that have always worked for you. So if flashcards always worked for you, keep them. It didn't work for me at a certain point, so I didn't. So don't feel like because you're in a completely new environment that you need to change everything about yourself. That's just not true. Because I remember one time there were all these articles about how you should prepare for your first year of high school, and they're talking about, hey, you should really start taking Cornell notes. And I'm like, I tried that. I did, and I was like, no, this is not working for me. These are not the notes I'm taking. So after trial and error, I just never used them again, and I still have never used them. Only like once in a while, if I really am not retaining the info, will I switch it up. But keep the things that you like, change the things that aren't working. And another thing is use the syllabus. Please, 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 please use the syllabus. That's one of the biggest takeaways of college. Syllabus is like the first day of any class is syllabus day. Just figure it out, read through the rules, read through the deadlines, assignments, and everything. And the third thing is don't be afraid to ask for help. You're not the only one in this situation. There are so many people who are struggling. Professors have seen students struggle. They know that if one student doesn't get it a certain way, they can change it up. There's also so many resources on campus to help you out. So be open to change, and be willing to accept the challenges that come in your way.
That's fantastic advice from both of you guys. And thank you again for being with us here today. Thank you, Devanshi and Liza. It was so great having you guys both back to just talk about your experiences and your time management tips and study skills tips, because I mean, those are things that you don't realize that you have to learn. And they made you such successful students. And so we're so proud of you guys for transferring on. And we just are so thrilled to watch you guys on your journeys and everything. So the Alumni Sharing Knowledge Network project is an admissions production, and the recordings can be found on the IVCC Eagles YouTube channel. Thank you guys again for joining us. Please join us next Wednesday at 6:30 to discuss self-care as a student for our Week 7 Ask Network episode. Thank you again. If you guys have any questions or anything, please feel free to contact us. My name is Gracelyn Quessy. I'm the Student Recruitment Specialist at IVCC. Azeret Loveland is the Assistant Director of Admissions Records and Transfer Services. And we just love talking to students and just really helping them to get to where they want to go. So contact us. Let's work together. We'd love to talk to you. Once again, thank you to our participants, Devanshi and Liza. You guys are awesome. And we cannot wait to see what you guys do in the future to make us proud. Next week, once again, is self-care as a student, and we'll see you then. Take care.